I just want to get it started with, did you always know that you were gonna, be where you are right now in like sports broadcasting and that profession? And if so, like what sparked your love for sports?
No, let's normalize not knowing what you want to do from the time you were born. Like we hear these stories all the time and they drive me nuts, right? It's like, I knew since I was 3 years old that I was going to be a commodities trader. No, you didn't. Like, stop. That's a lie. And some people do. Like some people come out of the womb sort of drawn to something. We see that a lot with professional athletes. There's an interest in something, they can really nurture that and flex that muscle. But also let's make room for the people who have no idea, who, went to college like I did. Sort of, I knew I loved sports. I come from a sports family. I knew I loved broadcasting. I grew up sort of pretending to be Oprah or Robin Roberts, and I would talk to the stuffed animals in my room. What I believed for most of my life, because I knew what I didn't want to do. And that's okay too. Sometimes you don't know what you want to do, you just know what you don't want to do. And I knew a desk wasn't made for me or built for me. Desk jobs are great jobs. In fact, if we didn't have them, if we didn't have amazing people wanting to occupy them, then the world would not move. But some of us are just not meant for that. And I sort of knew that. And for most of my life, early life, I thought that meant that I wanted to be an actress. And I was a theater performer. And I even moved when I was 18 years old. I took a semester off of college and I moved to LA for pilot season because I was going to get a big Hollywood agent and become Halle Berry. Spoiler alert, didn't happen. But what I realized when I turned, 19, 20, 21, when I was around in this stage that you guys are right now, is that I kept thinking that because I didn't want to be behind a desk, that I wanted to be someone else for a living. And I think what I realized was, oh, I just want to be myself for a living. And so what are the things that I enjoy? I've always loved communicating. I've always loved sort of talking, telling stories, connecting with people. That's always sort of been just a thing that's a function of my personality and a part of who I am. And I realized, because I looked up to the Robin Roberts of the world and the Oprahs of the world, there is a space where you can be yourself, tell these stories, talk about other people, highlight other things. And that's sort of how I landed on broadcasting. And I decided at 20, when I was in college at the time, I was 19 actually, to pivot from a theater major, which my own even theater professors told me I should not be getting a degree in, to mass communications. And needless to say, it didn't work out. I mean, it did work out, but it didn't. I come from a family of master's degrees and, everyone's incredibly like highly educated. And I went to my mother after my second semester of my sophomore year and was like, I want to leave school because I'm getting an opportunity in broadcasting as an intern and I want to take it. And I'm going to have to like miss school to do it. And she was devastated, like, oh, you're going to be a college dropout. Oh my God. But I made a deal with her that the second I didn't have a job anymore in broadcasting, doing the thing that I was going to school for, that I'd go back to school. And I have been working ever since, fortunately.
Oh my gosh, that is just the epitome of your work ethic. And at the end of the day, that comes from something, and that level of maturity comes from something. And I want to know, like, if there's any, person or, it could be yourself too, like that allowed you to believe in yourself and, believe so much in the fact that you were going to do this. Didn't matter how it was going to happen, what route you took, because you took many, and just, what went into that level of maturity and just keeping it at a stable condition throughout?
Yeah. That's a really good question. I think that a lot of times we always hear people's origin stories and it always starts with someone like not believing in them. And certainly I have plenty of those. And there were times where it was like, see, Mrs. Peterson, because I did. I actually, one of my class projects and I think second or third grade was write about what you want to be for a living. And I wrote that I wanted to be myself. And my teacher was like, that's not a job. And tried to squash that dream right away, and I remember my mom being like, yes, it is, if she says that it is. And so as corny as it sounds and as cliche as it sounds, certainly my first advocates were my parents. And probably for many of you too, right? And that's complicated because I'm now a mother. Like, we are not incredibly objective. Like we tend to have our favoritism. We like gave birth to you, related to you. And I think for a long time I wondered, especially when I was getting told no and getting those rejections, like because my parents were my first cheerleaders and my biggest advocates, like, was it just because they're my parents? Like, am I actually any good? Am I actually talented? But I think that there's always, as you sort of plot out your journey, there is always room to be motivated by the chip on the shoulder, particularly in sports. That's what I do. Look at Tom Brady, right? Like the horrible chubby combine picture and being drafted as late as he was in the 6th round and da, 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 da. Like all of those things motivated him, and he had a chip on his shoulder and he talked about it all the time. And it motivated him to become the greatest quarterback of all time, right? But I also think there's room, again, as we grow and show maturity, to really try and work as hard as you can for yourself and for the people that did believe in you, because there are people along the way that have always shown you a kindness or have taken extra time for you. Those people see something in you, And so as much as we love to be sort of Hollywood motivated by all the no's, and certainly they can fuel you in some ways, there's always someone, if you look even now at your journey, there's always someone that's been there to just give you an extra word of advice or an extra hand. And those are the people that you work hard for. Those are the people that should motivate you, the ones that saw that in you, that knew you could be great, that knew you could accomplish whatever goal you had told them, no matter how, seemingly absurd. So for every Mrs. Peterson, I had, a Mrs. Brashear that was like, yes, baby girl, you can do anything you want, and I try to stay as motivated as I can by those types of people. It's just a level of growth,
Now, switching gears from the journey itself, now being present, in the role that you're at, what's a way that, you stay grounded, and what are some, I guess, like key aspects about being grounded, the behavior you need to maintain from, one level of being burnt out as opposed to being, a little too complacent? Like what goes into that? And, if you can explain a little bit about it.
Yeah. Gabby, that's the great question. It's like this great sort of philosophical question that I think all of us ask ourselves, especially when we sort of reach a level that we've hoped to, right? Like my goal 10 years ago, when I sort of really plotted out the goal of coming to ESPN specifically, because it's not enough to just sort of throw out this, like, when we're all 16, 17 years old, we're like, I'm going to work in sports one day. That's not the same thing as plotting out a goal, by the way. It's not. Like you really have to be calculated and plot these things out. So the second that you get serious enough to actually sit down and map out a path, a journey, whatever it looks like, that's when you can say like you really were serious about your goals. So while I knew I wanted to do TV for a long time, the last 10 years is when I got serious enough to sort of plot out this idea of becoming a sports center anchor at ESPN. So now that I'm here, I would say, and I told Gabby this is something I really wanted to talk to you guys about. I would say the most difficult thing to balance when you sort of reach goals, or as you start to get more yeses than no's, which will happen at some point in your life if you work hard enough. All of a sudden you'll be like, oh, you're calling me back. Like I don't have to convince you. You are convinced. This is cool. Is a couple of things. One of them being how you balance contentment with being complacent. And I think that people sort of lean into their ambition a lot, which is important, right? Ambition is what is going to sort of fuel you in many ways when you're tired, when you are seemingly feeling burned out, all of those things. And complacency, and feeling like if you stop for even a second and smell the roses, then you are complacent and you are falling behind. And we have this really toxic culture that always tells you like more. You got to work harder. Someone's lapping you right now at the gym. If you got up at 6, someone got up at 5. If you worked 12 hours, someone worked 14. And it is exhausting. And honestly, when I think about what it's doing to young people like you, it's sad, because I go to this thing called NABJ every year. It's a National Association of Black Journalists. It's a conference. There's numerous ones across the country. And I talk to young journalists all the time who want to break into the field. And there was a young girl I talked to last year in Las Vegas. She comes up to me. She just wants some advice after a panel that I had done. And she just starts bursting into tears. And I was like, what is wrong? And she's like, I just feel like I'm falling behind. I feel like I'm just not doing what I'm supposed to do. Like, I feel like, so much pressure. Like, I'm just not where I'm supposed to be. Where she was a junior at LSU. So I looked at her and I said, sweetie, if you got offered a job right now, you wouldn't even take it because you're still in college, right? And she was like, well, yeah. I was like, so this idea that you're falling behind and this pressure that you're putting yourself on and this anxiety and this, it's not healthy, you guys, and it's not sustainable. It's not. It just is not. You got to take the pressure off of yourself. Like, you have to relax, okay? That's first of all. Stop listening to this idea that like everything that you're doing is like one step, what you're one step away from like what you want. If you would just work harder, and stop, full stop. Okay. Like, using the adage of like Rome wasn't built in a day. It's true. People say these cliche, seemingly bullshit sayings all the time because it's true. It takes time. It takes hard work, yes, but it takes time. And one day you're going to be at a place where everything that you wished and hoped for is coming true all around you. And it's somehow still not going to feel like enough. And then you'll get more things and more things. And then you'll find yourself where I think a lot of people find themselves, not just at this company, but in general, 10 to 15 years into their career. And that is cynical. And I implore you, each one of you, to stay, yes, in some ways skeptical, but not cynical. Cynicism is one of these things that is sort of inevitable with us old folks, right? Like it happens for a bevy of reasons. We can get disillusioned because we were bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, because we were optimistic at one point, because we've dealt with grief and loss in a way that maybe you haven't. But everything that you're doing right now, all of the things that you were hoping for yourself and your career, all of those things that are going to inevitably happen for you, remember right now at this moment, the gratitude that you feel, the gratefulness that you feel. You all jumped on this Zoom call faster than I've seen anybody at 20 and 20-year-olds. At some point, that's going to become, oh God, they're making me get on a Zoom. It's inevitable, but I am asking you to try your best to be rooted in gratitude, whilst also recognizing when you need to advocate for yourself. Nobody is saying you should go into any situation and just be, Holly in the city, I'm so happy to be here, like, thank you, right? But you've got to remember all of those same feelings that you had right now, everything that you said you wanted when you started this journey, today, yesterday, tomorrow, whenever your journey starts. Remember that. Remember that hunger. Remember that gratitude. Remember that girl that would be willing to do anything to have a seat on a SportsCenter desk. So when they say to you, well, now your show is going to be on ESPN2, don't roll your eyes. I'm talking to myself. You see, I'm being very specific here. Don't roll your eyes and say, ugh, there's not even as many viewers. Are you crazy? You're on a SportsCenter desk, woman, right? So like, I don't have any grand ideas about how you fight and combat those things. I don't. I struggle with it every day. I can say practicing gratitude is important. But more importantly, recognizing when you are being valued. That's what you need to think about. Are your opinions being valued? Are you being given more opportunity? Do you feel like when you ask or speak up, someone is listening to you? That is the most important thing, right? Not seemingly hitting all of these milestones and check marks at a certain age so that you can keep up with everybody else on TikTok that you're watching that's 21 years old and making $1 million a month for posting nothing. Like, those are not your examples, guys. And I don't want you to get bogged down by that.
Oh my God. I'm still taking in that.
Sorry, I just went on like a tangent, but I'm like, no, I just don't. That's a great way to put it, Cameron. Don't be jaded. Like, it's so hard. It's so hard. It is hard, but please try your best not to be. And when you feel yourself inevitably becoming that way, just remind yourself, right? Remind yourself of this time, the hustle, how hard you worked, the opportunities that are still ahead of you, and the bank account, right? Like, I remember like how creative I could get with $100 till the next paycheck. Like, remember that time so that when all of those things are behind you, you'll still remember and reflect on something, because it's so incredibly important if you're going to keep your career going, that you're somehow still rooted and grounded.
Thank you so much for that advice. I'm sure a huge weight was lifted off a lot of people's shoulders in this chat when you said that. And just, I think the value part is so overlooked. And speaking of, thinking of the value you have in a company, you have a huge value at home. You are a mother. And I think a lot of people in the chat would love to know, just everyone's balancing college, internship, they're on a sports team maybe, and they got school, but you are a mom and the anchor of SportsCenter. How do you balance that?
Yeah, I mean, I speak about this a lot. And again, I don't want there to be any like grand illusions of like, I hate being this example for people of like work-life balance, because the truth of the matter is like I am like shit at home. It's just the truth. My husband does everything. He is incredible. And I have great resources. So I can have a nanny that can help fill in all of those things that I drop, because I do inevitably drop things. Um, I have parents that retired at the exact same time and moved to Connecticut, 15 minutes away, and are incredibly hands on and help me almost daily with my children. Like, these are not realistic things. Okay. They are not. But here's the best advice that I got when it comes to learning how to balance. Okay. Because the first thing is, there's a lot of talk about balance, 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 work life balance, all of these things. I have to be honest with you. You are not at that age yet. You're not like,
Sure.
you're not at the point of your career where you're going to strike that perfect tone of work life balance. It's just not the case. I hate to tell you, friends, but your busiest days are ahead of you. Okay. It's just the truth. Your busiest days are ahead of you, and that's okay. You need to make sure that you're keeping your mentals, right? Like, if you start getting, so fatigued that you're thinking about, you know, really dark things, that is when you need to have a full stop. But this idea that like you're going to get holidays, weekends, get to shoot your shot, that doesn't happen yet. You will get there. You do what you got to do now so you can do what you want to do later. But the best advice I've ever got when it comes to sort of like thinking about how you balance things is, imagine that you're juggling, right? And in life, you've got rubber balls and you've got glass balls. And all the while, you know that if you drop a rubber ball, what happens? It's fine. It bounces back up, actually. It's okay. It doesn't break. But if you drop a glass ball, it will break. And the seemingly hard and quite difficult part about life is figuring out which of the balls are glass and which of the balls are rubber. And I have this talk with everybody that I work with and everybody that's in my life. I give them this, since I've heard about this. I give them this example so that when I look at my show group and say, I understand that it's football season and this is really important that I'm here, but also like seeing my daughter in her very first dance recital, even though it's at 4 o'clock, like, this is a glass ball. And they respect that. And you're going to drop a lot of balls. That's just the truth. And you hope that most of them are rubber and that everyone will recover. But you've just got to figure out the things that you will inevitably have to let drop, because it's just the truth. Sacrifice is integral to success. It just is. And I wish that I could sugarcoat that for you. There's lots of holidays and events and all kinds of things that I've missed, and things that have, you know, kept me up at night or made me cry. Not just since I've become a mom, since before then too. This has been a marathon, folks, not a sprint, right? You just have to try and figure out, with you and with your friends and family, the people that mean the most to you, what are the glass balls? What are the rubber balls? What can you drop that will recover? What can you absolutely not? And then be honest with the people around you about what you need. You know, speak up and talk about what you need. But yes, prepare yourself, guys. Like, this is a run, but I wish so much that I could just sort of, you know, by power of osmosis, just let you see all of the things. I sat on this end of an internship video before too, and was like, yeah, okay, you don't know me, you don't understand me, whatever. And I listened to someone implore me to like do all the things I'm asking you to do. And it's just the truth. Like, just know you got hard days ahead, and you're not always going to strike a perfect balance, and you are going to get tired. Identify burned out from tired. Burned out is feeling of hopelessness, feeling depressed, feeling like, you know, there's no end to this, pulling away from friends. Like, there is patterns that are telling you that your mental health is in question. And that is very different than just being tired. Okay. Because I stay tired. I live in the world of tired, but that is very different than burned out.
Thank you so much for putting that in perspective, Elle. I guess along with, you know, being in the thick of it and being within the busy schedule, I think something that's key is, you know, seeking to build and maintain relationships. And especially a job like yours, you know, you have a co-anchor, you're working with producers all the time, but you're also working with, you know, the athletes you interview also. So can you just talk about how you seek to do that, people you have done that with, and you could share a little bit about it?
Just, you know, listen, it's not brain surgery. Like, just be a cool person. I'd rather be a cool person than to just have a cool job. Like, you guys, there's not like, you don't even need ChatGPT to tell you how to be just like a cool teammate and a good coworker, like fill holes, be willing to do a little extra, be willing to help people, be thoughtful. When you have, listen, I don't always strike that right chord and I don't always get it right. And I know that I don't, but I'm introspective, and I have created an environment around me where I open myself up to self-deprecation, and I also open myself up to feedback. Like, tell me how to work with you. You need to ask questions of people. I think that one of my better talents is just sort of figuring out what people need. If I work with you long enough, I will watch you, I'll talk to you, I'll ask questions. Everyone needs to be led differently. Everyone needs a different type of working relationship. And so it really is on us. And I think it's okay to put the onus and responsibility on yourself to make a great working environment by doing what you can to facilitate that. I like to come to work and not worry about who I'm sitting with and whether there's politicking and whether there's pettiness or chattiness or whatever. Like, I want a nice bubble. I want a haven at work. If I'm going to leave my family that I love very much and come sit at a place for 9 or 10 hours a day, damn it, I want to like it, right? And there's a lot that you all can do to ensure that that happens for you. You're not victims of your circumstance, So if you're finding that someone's being difficult or that you're not on the same page with somebody, take a moment, introspect, figure out maybe what you could be doing to help the situation. Sometimes like situations and people are just sort of impossible and you'll always butt heads and you'll never be okay. But having a common ground and enough respect to get to the day together to sort of work towards the same common goal, it's a great sort of galvanizing thing that you can do. There's so many people that I work with that people on the surface would be like, oh, these must be your best friends in the world. They're not. We don't talk outside of work. But when we are there, we have a respect for each other that nobody wants to make each other's day miserable. So just do that, and don't avoid conflict. I think women in particular are not confrontational. So we just bury things, eat things, sit on things, and then we explode, right? It's happened to me too. But just be, open and willing. Be willing to the idea that you could meet someone that you never thought you would be cool with ever on the surface. And maybe you started off on a bad front and that you could at some point find a common goal, because it's happened so many times with me where I thought me and this person, oil and water, never going to work. It just is what it is. We'll just avoid each other. But that in and of itself is pretty toxic too, right? What's that adage about like holding a grudge is like drinking poison and expecting it to hurt the other person? Ew, like why carry that on your heart? So I would say in general, working with people means finding out how they want to be treated as well and trying your best to make that situation work. I pride myself in that.
Absolutely. Before switching gears, there's one more thing. Working with the people on SportsCenter and like the Daily Show, you touched upon a little bit, but there's also that extra that SportsCenter brings, and that's the advertising side. And I know you had the opportunity of being on a This Is SportsCenter commercial. And those who don't know what This Is SportsCenter commercials are, all famous athletes or, team representatives come on this commercial in Bristol in the studios and actually get to film like a nice little tease. And Elle, I know you were on one of them. If you just want to share a little bit about what that was like, and again, like working with those people in a different environment, by all means, that would be great.
Yeah, it's really cool because, you guys are young, but like growing up when ESPN was first a thing and then a huge thing, This Is SportsCenter commercials were like the best. I mean, that was sort of our original like YouTube skits. You guys have TikTok skits all the time. Now, we didn't have that back then. So it was just This Is SportsCenter commercials, and you would see your favorite athletes and favorite sportscasters on this like really funny light, and they were making fun of themselves, and it was great. And so coming here, it's sort of like a dream and a goal of any SportsCenter anchor to be in one. A funny story on the first one that I was in, it was a few years back after Aaron Judge becomes like Aaron Judge, right? And I'm like 3.5, 4 months pregnant with my first kid. So right at that place where you don't really want to tell everybody because you're still sort of in your first trimester. Most people don't want to talk about it. But at a place where I was already like at a pooch, and also, it was becoming uncomfortable. So they let me know I'm going to get to do This Is SportsCenter commercial with Aaron Judge. And I was like, dope. I used to play baseball. Like, this is going to be so fun. We're going to do something baseball related. No. We're going to be at the ESPN gym. And I don't know if you guys have seen the commercial, but the commercial is essentially me and Scott Van Pelt are working out crazy hard on these treadmills. We're running and running and running. And Aaron Judge just jumps on and he's just like barely jogging. And that's because his treadmill is set to home run trot, right? That's all the running he ever does. That's the joke. All the running he does is a home run trot because all he does is hit home runs. But this is SportsCenter spots take like 65 takes to get right. And so I ran 3.5 months pregnant for like 2.5 hours straight. And I am dying. I am sucking wind. At first, they have to like spray us with water to make us look sweaty. They didn't have to do that by the end. I am like dying. So Scott Van Pelt finally is like, you know what? And he's been here so much longer, right? Like he's Scott Van Pelt, he's this big name. He's like, you know what? You guys, like, I think you got it. We've been doing these takes over and over. Like, this is unreal. We've been running for 2 hours. You guys, like, enough. So the producers huddle up and they're like, da, 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 da. They walk over and they're like, all right, tell you what, Scott, for this take, you're just so exhausted. You're just going to be walking. But Elle, you're still going to need to be sprinting. I was like, oh my God, I'm the pregnant one. It was incredible. So yes, luckily everything was great. My baby just turned 5 and she's fine. And I got to meet Aaron Judge, who was actually really awesome. I wanted to hate him because I'm a Braves fan and like, ew, if you're not a Yankees fan, boo the Yankees, sorry. But he was a great guy and really, really cool. Offered to get me water because he knew that I was pregnant. But yeah, I've been fortunate to be in 3 of them since, and it's been awesome.
That is just so full circle because in the beginning you said you wanted to be an actress and, you know, didn't go that route, but look at that.
There we go. See, Gabby,
Also,
exactly. That's when I get to tap into that. Yeah.
And before we get into the speed round, you had a cameo in a movie. And if you don't mind, you know, expanding upon that, I would love to hear all about that one.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I see Shy. Is that Shy Tran? Hey, did I say Shy or is it Chi? Right along. That's right. You know, so this is why you should foster connections with people, even if you don't think that they're in a field that you want. I had met the producer of Ride Along, Will Packer, years before at a charity event. And again, I'd sort of given up on this dream of being an actress, but we became really, really cool. And he, in a bind, calls me one day and he's like, Elle, we're shooting Ride Along, which I knew. You know, I was in local Atlanta news at the time. He's like, we're shooting Ride Along. My reporter that was supposed to be like the reporter for this pivotal scene just pulled out. Like, I need you. I need someone who can slide in as a reporter because you're literally a reporter. I need you tonight. I was like, okay. So I scramble and I go down there and I am in the role. Like they blow up this warehouse and Kevin Hart's girlfriend is watching the news and I'm the newscaster she's watching. Who's reporting on this warehouse fire. And it was dope because I mean, you really have like one chance to get it right. They blew up an entire warehouse. They can't do that twice. So that's right. Will Packer is a FAMU alum. Yep, I see you. And so I got a chance to be in Ride Along, and I still get residuals to this day. I mean, they're like $25, but it's a fun story, and it was really cool to be on a film set. And to the person that said, "Is Kevin Hart funnier in person than on screen?" Kevin Hart is actually the exact same way. Like he can't ever turn it off. I've been around Kevin numerous times just behind the scenes, events, things like that. And he is always that way. He's very funny. He is always trying to crack a joke and make the room laugh. He's a clown. Like that is him through and through.
That's awesome. A bit of a speed round, which the interns love this section. So I hope you do as
well. Ooh, I do.
You said it a little bit, but your favorite sports team?
Like of all time?
Yeah, anything.
Okay. Well, okay. So this is complicated, but my family is from Denver, born and raised, and then they moved to Atlanta and had me. So I'm actually a Broncos fan, but then it's Braves all the way, Georgia all the way, and the Hawks would be like my least favorite team, but I do like the Hawks.
All right. Favorite music genre?
Ooh, this is impossible for me. Anyone that knows me knows I know more music than maybe anybody. I know I could beat Shazam. I think I could rival Spotify in terms of the music that I love. But if I have to pick something that like you're on a deserted island and you can only listen to this for the rest of your life, it would be Motown.
That's how I should
all the Motown classics. Yes,
that's
all
awesome.
The Motown classics.
Because you were on hip hop radio. So, I mean, I can only imagine all the music you're listening to at that time also. So,
ton. Yes, awesome.
A ton. Coffee or tea or either?
Ooh, coffee. Inject coffee. If I could get like a coffee drip where they could just put it directly in my vein, I would do that.
Okay, a little Disney tidbit. Cars or Toy Story?
Ooh, Toy Story.
Best Disney park.
Oh, ooh, I mean, Disney World. I'm an East Coast girl. It's Disney World. Oh, like the park at Disney World? Oh, you know what? This is tough. I was just there last year with my kid, and I would have told you Magic Kingdom, but I'm gonna go animal. I'm gonna go animal. Animal Kingdom, man. It's
I
lit.
go animal too. I love the rides there. Just the
The
safari
Avatar
ride
ride is just
unmatched.
unreal. The Avatar ride is just unreal.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Favorite sporting event you've been to? There's probably a lot.
The Super Bowl.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Go-to karaoke song.
Ooh, I have two. I'd like to do Shoot by Salt and Pepper. Do you guys know that? Now let me bring it back to the subject. Peps on the set. Let's go. I know I'm old, you guys. There's so many kids. They're like, what's a Salt and Pepper? And I like to do Total Eclipse of the Heart. But I like to do, have you guys seen the movie Old School? I like to do the old school version, and I'll just leave it there. If you've seen it, you know what I mean. If you haven't, Google it.
That's awesome. Would you rather fly or be invisible?
Ooh. That's a great question. Can I change the question and say I would rather teleport?
Yeah, why not?
Like, I want to get places quickly, but like Superman, like flying through the sky, that doesn't feel like great. Like, it feels like that's probably not great, sucking wind and bugs the whole time. I want to get there, but just faster. So teleport.
I'm a New Yorker, so the traffic I would rather teleport through than stay within. So I completely agree.
Just do like that and go. Yeah.
Exactly. If you were a Disney character, who would you be?
Ooh, Moana. Yeah, I love that she has a sense of adventure. That's also one of like my absolute favorites. But I just love that she had this sense of adventure, and she had a sense of community, and that she was willing to leave her community because she felt like it could help it. So that's awesome. I love it.
I got two more. Hidden talent.
Hidden talent. Oh, I'm not talented. Listen, I don't hide shit. So if I have any talent, you've already seen it. Here's something people don't know about me. I actually really like doing I like reupholstering furniture and stuff. I like upcycling furniture. I like building things. Yeah, maybe in a former life I would come back as a carpenter.
Now you need a cameo on the Property Brothers. So
yeah, exactly. Hello. Can you talk to someone? Yeah.
Last one. I just had it. Any big pet peeves?
Oh, I have a ton of pet peeves. What? You know what I hate? I hate that, and I might just be speaking for especially having moved to the Northeast, because I didn't encounter these in the South very much. But I hate that so many traffic situations really tell you about the intelligence of people, like people that can't navigate a four-way stop or a rotary. Like, I've never realized how incapable people are of just navigating simple traffic situations on their own. And like going through a rotary is just like, it could be like a Rorschach test on intelligence. It's like, it's not that hard. So yeah, I would say traffic stuff mostly bothers the hell out of me, which tells you a lot. I'm from Atlanta. It's mostly, our whole life is mostly traffic. So.
Oh man. Elle, well, thank you so much for your time today. I can speak on behalf of everyone. The advice you gave is so genuine. Just, you were so vulnerable and you were so authentic. And I think we love that. And, really, again, appreciate your time and appreciate you telling us to be rooted in gratitude and just staying present. So thank you so much again.